Alright, let's get to the point. You click on the video because either you're looking for help in which character you should pull for in this patch, or you're just bored and watch every single Genshin Impact video content there is. But either way, as usual guys, today we have a video diving in depth into which character you should pull for in patch 3.2, because it is something we do on the channel for every patch, with the goal of helping you make the best decision you can make on your account, especially if you are a free-to-play player, because I know how hard of a decision it can be when you are limited on Primogems. Now guys, here's a quick word on today's sponsor, Paimon's Bargain. If you're someone who's been spending your hard-earned money to pull for your favorite character, you'd know how expensive the top-up can get. But what if I were to tell you that from now on you can get at least a 20% off on all of your top-ups, walk-ins, and battle pass buy? How much would that help you to save? And that's what Paimon's Bargain here will provide you. Whenever you order your Primogems buy through Paimon's Bargain, you will be able to order at a discounted price. Now the reason why this is legit is because it is through discounted Coda shop, or you can understand it as gift card discount. Paimon's Bargains already have many people following, plus have worked with larger creators like Cushing Mains. And of course, I wouldn't be telling you guys this if it wasn't legit. How you do it is basically join Paimon's Bargain Discord server. There will be a link down in my description, and once you're there will be direct instruction on how you can order. Right now, since there will be a Primogem shop reset in patch 3.1, they are holding an event where there is a 30% off when buying every Primogems pack in the shop. Link to Paimon's Bargain Discord in the description. As always, good luck on your character pools guys, limited spending only if you do spend, and with that, let's just hop into today's video. First off guys, we're going to be going through the important overviews of each of the character that will be coming in patch 3.2, so that you basically have an understanding of how the characters are going to perform before you actually can make the decision, right? And so first off, of course, we're going to be looking into our lovely Nahida, as she is going to be the main spotlight of not just patch 3.2, but I believe it's going to be up until the next few patches as well. Now of course, Nahida is not released as of this point of the video, so anything that we're going to be discussed here might be subjected to change. So as usual, take everything we discuss about Nahida with a grain of salt. So when talking about our cute little Nahida here, you almost obviously know she is a Dendro Catalyst user with EM Ascensions. Now you're not going to be using Nahida's normal attack to deal damage most of the time. Of course, you can have her on field and play around with her normal attack, but her main damage source is going to be through her E skill, in that your aim is going to be marking your opponent with the Seed of Skandha by holding down Nahida E skill, and then afterward dealing damage through Tri Karma Purification. Now how you're going to be able to trigger Nahida's E skill is through elemental reactions, or whenever Dendro cores deal damage to the opponent. So in other words, Nahida's skill is only going to be dealing damage until you yourself deal elemental reaction damage to the opponent. However, what makes the skill or Nahida insane is the fact that the Seed of Skandha will link your opponent together within a certain distance. And whenever you trigger Tri Karma Purification, even if you're triggering it in only one opponent, the rest of the link enemies will be triggered as well, resulting in, I would say, Nahida to be one of, if not the best character who is going to be dealing AoE damage. Because unlike other characters where you need this skill to actually deal damage to the whole group, for Nahida, as long as the enemies are linked together, you only need to deal damage onto one, and the rest of the group is gonna take damage from her E skill, which is really good. Not to mention, her E skill lasts up to 25 seconds with a hold cooldown of only 6 seconds, so it's basically gonna be on 100% of the time. Now we won't be going in depth into Nahida's build because I'll be going through that in the next next video, but her E skill damage currently scale with both attack percentage and EM. However, EM will have a better scaling, so of course you would want to be building a lot of EM onto Nahida. Now her burst is actually pretty interesting in that it doesn't actively deal damage, but in a sense it is a buffer for her E skill, in that whenever she casts her burst, it's basically creating a palace, and within this palace, if your team has pyro character, the damage of her E skill will increase. If there is electro character on your team, the interval between her E skill activation is decreased, and then if there's hydro character on your team, her burst duration is gonna be increased. Now this goes up to 2 character buff, so the level of the buff will be different if you have 1 or 2 characters. And of course the base duration of her burst is 15 seconds, however the cooldown is only 13 seconds and the requirements of energy is only 50 as well, so technically speaking she's always gonna have her burst on the field. For Nahida's passive talent 1, basically when you are within her burst AoE, the EM of the active character within her burst will be increased by 25% of the EM of the party member that has the highest elemental mastery, and a maximum of 250 EM can be gained in this manner. Or in other words, the highest EM you want to go to is 1000 EM. And Nahida's passive 2 basically gives her up to an 80% damage bonus and a 24% crit to her E skill based on Nahida's elemental mastery of over 200 EM. So in other words, it's also an 1000 EM max on Nahida. So overall, I would say that Nahida is definitely going to be an insane character hands down. Of course, it's of no surprise because Hoyoverse cannot mess up an Archon. Her basic role is either going to be an off-field damage dealer for the team or an on-field driver. You can have her in either of the 2 roles and she's going to perform it perfectly well. Not to mention she is a Dendro character that deals an insane number of AoE damage across the board. Therefore, on top of the already high damage that she is capable of, she's going to be very good at applying Dendro reaction to the team as well. And then when looking at this, I can't see any problem that Nahida is going to be having, apart from the fact that her main damage source is only going to be from her E skill, because of course her burst doesn't do damage and you're almost never going to be using her normal attack to deal damage as well. And also from the fact that her E skill does have a requirement in order for it to trigger, is that it's only going to be triggered if you are doing elemental reactions. Now that won't be of a problem most of the time because of course you're going to be having some kind of reaction going on in Genshin Impact team, but if you're someone who loves mono team, then you can't run Nahida in a Dendro mono team. So that's the only thing that I can see of with Nahida right now. Other than that, she's just an absolutely perfect Dendro character. Next up, we have Yae Miko. Now assuming that you've already understood the skill and kit of the following reruns character, I won't be going through their skills in depth anymore, but we'll only talk about their pros and cons. Now for Yae Miko, she's still one of a very good character who deals off-field damage. The thing with her gameplay is that she's very easy to play because you just have to set her E skill on the field and then you just leave her E skill to do the work. You don't need a trigger like a normal attack trigger like how Xingqiu, Yelan and Beidou is required, but her E skill is just gonna be there and do the work for you. Not to mention it does have a very long uptime of 14 seconds, so you won't have to touch it for at least that amount of time. Not to mention after Dendro reaction have arrived, Yae Miko have got a significant buff from aggravates, and also her kit does skills with EM, therefore she works even better running in a Dendro reaction teams. What I really love about Yae Miko, and I basically have her in all of my team, is the fact that her E skill has C0 has pretty decent AoE, and then since it's targeting like basically every opponent within its AoE, many of the time it will be taking out your enemies without you even realizing it. So when running Yae Miko in the team, it feels as if you're already having a crowd controller for you, so that's what I love most about Yae Miko. Not to mention she works well in almost every team, you just have to have her on the team and then she will do very well as an off-field damage dealer for you. And something to boot is that she has very good animations, because every time you use her E skills her foxtails appear. Not to mention her burst animation is just beautiful. I love using it every single time. However, she does have some cons that we need to take into consideration is that her gameplay is basically set around her E skill. Now, you can have her as a DPS character and a burst damage dealer, but most of her kits and her passive talent is focused upon using and buffing her E skill. So if you don't like that playstyle, then she's definitely most likely not for you. However, one of the biggest things that kind of overshadow Yae Miko is the fact that for a free-to-play C0 Yae, C6 Official is almost as good, and if not, sometimes even better. If you want more info than this, then I've already made an in-depth video on that. So if you've already got a C6 Official on the team, then you're basically set to go. However, due to the fact that with new Dendro reactions and the fact that she does scale with EM, it had made C0 Yae Miko quite better than C6 Official, but from the fact that you do have to spend quite a lot of Primogems to actually get Yae, many of us will be set with just a C6 Official. Something else is that Yae Miko constellation is very good. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing for us, but if we're looking in terms of damage increase, every single one of Yae Miko's constellation will increase her damage by at least 15%, and not every character in Genshin Impact has access to this much of a good constellation. So you will see quite a huge difference when having invested into your Yae Miko, especially if you're getting her weapon and the more constellations she has. I know that's kind of a common sense, but compared to many of the characters, her constellation do definitely makes a big difference. Moving on to Childe, the character that has got the most rerun till this point, but of course he hasn't been back for almost a year now, so it does make sense that he is back at this time. Now, for Childe, he is an interesting character in that what's good about Childe is that he's still a very strong multi-target damage dealer because of his Riptide. Is able to trigger very good AoE damage to your opponent. He's quite free to play friendly because you do have a lot of weapon option for him, as well as artifact stats investment. You don't need too much of energy requirement, but in exchange he is capable of dealing very good damage, especially he does have very high burst damage as well. One of a very good thing about Childe is that he has very flexible team comps in that he works well in many different teams. Especially the biggest question you might be having right now is whether or not he's working well in Dendro Reaction team, in which he of course does, because he is one of the characters that applies Hydro application the fastest in the game up until now. I can't go too in depth into his team comps because this video is gonna take forever, but his value in different teams, especially when it comes to Dendro Reaction teams, he still finds himself to have a very good spots on those teams. However, Childe do have some of the bigger downside that you want to remember before pulling for him, is that he is one of the more tricky characters to actually play well, or in other words, he have a very high technical learning curve in order for you to master him. You can't just simply pick up Childe, build him, and then use his skill for him to do well, because at first many will realize that his individual damage output compared to other 5-star DPS will technically be lower, because Childe is a character that focuses on enabling your team damage to the next level rather than his solo damage, mainly from the fact that a lot of the time he is a Hydro enabler for the team to deal vaporize or other reaction damage than he himself because of his very fast Hydro applications. Another challenge that you will have to learn from Childe is his cooldown management of his E skill, because if you use it wrongly, his cooldown from his E skill will be very long, making your team rotation very hard to deal with. So those are some of the main downside of Childe you do need to keep in mind before pulling for him. And then finally, for our Yoimiya, our Queen of Festival, it is surprising to me that she is back quite early, because if I'm not wrong, she has just been back for like nearly 3 months ago. But either way, it is a congratulations for those of you who love her as a character and have been saving for her for quite some time, because for Yoimiya, she is still one of the strongest single target damage dealer in the game. Using her in the right team when you're up against solo bosses, and you realize that she will clear the floor a lot faster than any other character at C0, of course. Not to mention the fact that she is also one of the easiest characters to play, because you just need to activate her E skill and then spam her normal attack, as she is a ranged character. So most of the time she's just going to be standing there in one place and then deal damage. She is also very free to play friendly, as she does have quite a lot of good free to play weapon weapon options, and her team comp is flexible also in that her best support is Junjin, and since Junjin is more of a niche support character, therefore Yoimiya won't be taking many of the other favorite support character for your other teams. However, Yoimiya does have some of the downside that stops many of us from pulling for her, and I believe it still goes on until this day. The number one fact is that she is in a very competitive role of a pyro DPS character, because as you've known, we have so many, and up until this point in terms of meta level, Hu Tao is still going to be outperforming Yoimiya. Now, since she is focused on single targeted situations, her performance definitely will fall off in AoE situations, because whenever you are in a group, she will definitely need to clear off one enemy as fast as she can to get into the next. Yoimiya will also get interrupted pretty easily. Now, this can be a significant damage decrease for her, because if you don't know, her normal attack scaling is very high, and she has up to 5 normal attack scaling, in which her 5th combo has the highest damage scaling difference. Therefore, if you want to deal the most damage potential of Yoimiya, you always have to ensure she uses the final hit, and if she gets interrupted during her combo, that is a very significant decrease in her damage. And so many of the time she is required to have a shield on her team, so it's kind of like a requirement that Yoimiya needs. And so guys, those are some of the most important in-depth overview of the character. I hope that it has refreshed your mind or helped you have a better understanding of these characters. Now we'll move into the most important question of this video, and that is which character you should go for. Now of course guys, once again I do have to mention is that I always recommend you to go for the character that you love over meta, especially in Genshin Impact, because the game is already easy enough for you to clear, and all of the character in this game has the ability to clear the game when running in the right team. And so don't be forced to follow along with the meta, and just go for the character that you absolutely love, especially if their playstyle and gameplay fits the style that you want to play. And so with that out of the way, the first character in the highest priority list, of course, is going to be Nahida. I don't know what else you're going to be expecting. Main reason being is that she's just a very powerful Dendro character, not just now but for a very long time to come, especially from the fact that we won't be seeing any other Dendro character at least for a few patches until either Alhaitham comes or unexpected Dendro 4-star character arrives. And even so, I don't think any character is going to be able to replace Nahida in the long run because of her off-field damage potential and AoE ability from her E skill. And so the only reason you have for not pulling for Nahida right now is 1, you've already invested and shrimped for Nilou way more than you need to. 2 is that you don't personally like Nahida as a character. And 3, either because you're trying to save for another character of your favorite in some of the few patches to come. Because of course, since she is an Archon, she's most likely going to be returning or have a rerun banner pretty soon. Usually Archon have their banner return within 4 patches, so you might be someone who's going to be pulling for Nahida within her rerun banner. As for me personally, I don't think that any one of us is going to be missing out on any of the Archons in Genshin Impact, because Hoyoverse just make them into such incredible character that no other character can do or replace them in what they do best for a long run. Next in second place is gonna be Yae Miko because of her off-field damage potential, and especially I know that many of us have been pulling for Yae Miko due to the fact of your sheer love of her character, because she is one of the most interesting character in Genshin Impact right now from my opinion. I know I said that if you're playing free to play C0 Yae Miko, she won't be as good or as well invested if you've already got a C6 Fischl, but you might be someone who don't want to play Fischl and you prefer Yae on your team. So therefore of course Yae Miko is definitely a reasonable choice for you to go for. After Yae Miko, I would place Childe and Yoimiya basically on the same place because they are pretty much a very preference character to pull for. Because as of right now, if you're looking into the meta, there have been a lot of other characters that can go against these characters. For example, Childe will be Ayato and Yoimiya will be Hu Tao. So I can't really rank these two characters on top of each other based on the priority in which you want to pull for, because the power level of these two characters are very good and they're going to do absolutely fantastic fantastic whenever you put them in the right team. And so hopefully through this video you have been able to have a clearer understanding and make a better decision in terms of which character you should go for. Now of course there's also the option of you saving your Primogems and then not pull for any of the character in patch 3.2 and then save for some of the reruns and the potential Scaramouche drop of patch 3.3. But if you're deciding to go for one of the character in this patch and you feel that you're still lacking in your Primogems, then guys, in collaboration with Paimon's Bargain, we're doing a 6,480 Primogems giveaway on my Discord server, link in the description below guys. The giveaway will be held once Nahida banner drop, because we always want to give the opportunity to you guys to have a better chance of getting the character that you want. So if you're new to the channel guys, be sure to subscribe to my channel and join my Discord server to not miss out on the giveaway once Nahida banners arrive. As always guys, I really appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the video, and with that I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.